Hey everybody, Brian Zane here, and welcome to my review of WWE Evolution. It is the return of the all-women's PLE/PPV. First time they did that since 2018. And I know for a long time a lot of folks were asking for this show to happen again. And finally it did, smack dab in the middle of one of the biggest wrestling weekends we've seen all year. That's not for a major like Big Four event. There was All In on Saturday. I reviewed that. There was Evolution Sunday. There was also NXT and Saturday night's main event in between those. And then on Sunday, I actually didn't watch Evolution live because I was busy calling Prestige Wrestling Combat Clash in Portland. So if you want to check that show out amongst the gobs of other wrestling happening this past weekend, I advise you to check it out. It was a really great show. I was on the call with Jordan Castle and the main event, Judas Icarus and Alan Angels in a cage for the Prestige title. Was really cool to see. Timeless Toni Storm, the AEW Women's Champion, making a special appearance and so much more. Go check it out. I can't recommend it highly enough. But what about Evolution? Yes, I actually tuned in Monday after coming home and watched the show. And now I'm giving you my slightly belated review about it, and here we go. Beginning with the triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship as Becky Lynch defends against the woman she beat for it in Lyra, Valkyria, and Bayley. I loved how just into it the crowd in Atlanta was before this match even began. Like when the opening bell hit and man, that opening pop, that was terrific. It's really cool to hear the crowd be so into the show pretty much all night for that matter. Fast action to start things off, like Lyra's taken out early, so it's Becky and Bayley for a while. This moment where Lyra comes back in, puts Becky in a pendulum. It was a fun moment. They're fighting on the outside. Becky goes on this big run out there. She lays out Bayley and blocks a tornado DDT from Lyra. Becky and Bayley work one-on-one for a while again. Lyra makes a comeback. Lyra with this big suplex and a bridge. Bayley elbow drops her. Bayley with this sunset flip powerbomb into the corner with Lyra in the Tree of Woe. Bayley and Becky, they're fighting for the Rose Plant. Becky hitting Lyra with the manhandle slam. And then we get a lot of pinfall breakups. Bayley breaks up the cover, Lyra breaks up the cover, Bayley breaks it up again. After tons of fighting for it, Bayley finally hits the Rose Plant on Lyra, and then Becky with this all-time awesome roll-up onto Bayley to get her pinned and for her to win the match and retain. I give it 4 stars out of 5. I thought it was a lovely opener. That finish was absolutely fantastic. I thought that was just a great way for Becky to capitalize it. We've seen that trope of the heel capitalizes on the other person hitting the finish and then they roll that person up. That's the first time I've ever seen that done in that specific way. So props to all involved for that one. We get a lot of special guests on this show. Let's see Ava, the GM of NXT. Here's Mark Henry, a champion of women wrestlers everywhere, and everyone's favorite rape apologist, Vicky Guerrero. For the NXT Women's Championship, you've got Jacy Jayne of the Fatal Influence defending against the juggernaut in Jordynne Grace. Can we put a moratorium on all Wolverine-inspired wrestling gear for the next couple years or so? I feel like for the last year, I've been seeing just constant barrage of Wolverine-inspired gear. It was fun the first time I saw it, but now might want to switch up to Deadpool. Now, a little warning, I don't really watch much NXT these days, so I'm not too familiar with the build to this specific matchup. I will say, I do know that Jacy Jayne turned on Gigi Dolan a couple of years ago, very reminiscent of the barber shop with the Rockers. But I had no idea that 2 years later, Jacy is essentially still doing the Shawn Michaels gimmick. She comes out with the white leather and the chains and the sunglasses. She has 2 Diesels in Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix. But not to be outdone, Jordynne Grace has the newcomer to NXT, the former Mariah May, in Blake Monroe in her corner, because she wants to really help defend Jordynne against that evil Fatal Influence. I feel like I've seen this movie before. Grace is very strong out the gate. Big dive to the outside. Jayne fights back quickly, hits that PK kick to Jordynne from the apron. Fallon Henley with a cheap shot on Grace with the referee's back turned. Grace eventually hits a spine buster to create some space. I like the spot here where Jordynne just slams Jacy into the corner face first. More back and forth. Jayne with a Hurricane Rana. Fallon Henley grabs the belt, brings it into the ring. Blake Monroe takes her down. Jasmine Nix grabs the belt, and bam, Blake's got her. Damn, she was just looking at the belt. What do you, calm down, girl? So Blake's holding the belt, and gosh, I wonder what's gonna happen here. Of course, Blake costs Jordynne the match and presents Jacy with the belt. I give it 3 stars out of 5. I thought it was a fine match, but I could tell you, again, having not watched NXT lately and having seen none of Blake Monroe's stuff, in that company since she's been there, I could still see the setup and tell you what was happening like well before it happened. I mean, I think it's so interesting that they signed Mariah May from AEW, and in her time there in the company, she was really only known for like one big thing, one big betrayal, and then within, 2 months of her being in NXT, they have her doing pretty much the same thing, only way stripped down and way less interesting. I'm sure the matches with her and Jordynne Grace are going to be fine, are going to be great, but like, again, you could do a better way to introduce Blake Monroe as this heel by not just doing a shitty copy paste of what you did in AEW. We got some more legends here. It's Jazz, Ivory, Jacqueline, and Maurice. Then we move on to the women's tag title match. You've got the Judgment Day, Raquel Rodriguez, and filling in for an injured Liv Morgan, Roxanne Perez, defending against the recently reunited Kabuki Warriors. And you've got Ruca and Zaria, and another makeshift team in Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. Cool to see Asuka back on TV. I know she came back a couple of weeks ago from a knee injury that laid her out, so it's good to see her and Kairi Sane back together. And Roxanne, again, filling in for Liv Morgan. It's actually the first time, they say, that they have officially defended the belt as this particular combination. Rodriguez showing off the power early, slamming the Kabukis into each other. I think it's really interesting that a week or so ago on Kevin Nash's podcast, he criticized Rodriguez for working too small, like smaller than her stature should be, like basically bumping too much. And Rodriguez, I think she took that to heart because we see a little bit of a difference already in her demeanor and just her style, just in this match alone. Big "We Want Charlotte" chants as the match is going on. Zaria tags in. She's all big and intimidating to Alexa. We get this close call tag with Alexa and Charlotte, but like they can very clearly touch each other here, right? Alexa ducking the boot, tagging in Charlotte, who goes on this big babyface hot tag run. Asuka then goes on a run of her own. The Kabukis sure spending a lot of time together in the ring, double teaming Zaria. Nice athletic move by Ruca off the corner, then hits the Soul Snatcher onto Charlotte, which is at once one of the craziest and also one of the silliest wrestling moves I've ever seen. I think my reaction to that move is kind of how I felt when I first saw the Canadian Destroyer, where it's like, holy shit, I can't believe they pulled that off. But then the more you look at it, I'm like, what? It's just an extra flip? They tease a double team move onto Bliss, but Charlotte pulls Alexa out of the way. Zaria spearing her own partner. Raquel powerbombs Bliss to the outside onto Zaria and the Kabukis. Raquel hitting the Tejana bomb on Ruca to win the match, and the Judgment Day retain. I also give this match 3 stars out of 5. I never thought I would hear such a vociferous babyface reaction to Charlotte Flair, but the way they're building her up to kind of earn Alexa's trust, it's working. And again, I don't know how sustainable that's going to be. Every time Charlotte has been a babyface, it's never lasted very long. People have rarely bought it. But, times have changed and maybe things will be different this time around. We'll have to see. We get some more legends like Tori Wilson, Melina, and Molly Holly. Then a match for the WWE Women's Championship as Tiffany Stratton defends against her hand-picked opponent in Trish Stratus. One of the big problems with Evolution this weekend was the build to it and the fact that so many of the matches don't really have a story. In case of Tiffany here, she just literally, I'm picking Trish as my opponent. Okay, great. They say it's Trish's first title match since she retired the Women's Championship in 2006, and they also say it's her first singles match in 18 years. And I guess we're just gonna forget about the cage match she had with Becky Lynch a couple years ago. Some Becky Forthy early on. Trish hitting a nice head scissors off the apron and onto the floor. Crazy suplex by Tiffany into the knees. Yikes. Hitting a tight swanton off the top, but Trish kicks out. The PME is blocked with the knees. Trish hitting Stratusfaction, and there's a kick out. She goes for her own moonsault, but she misses. Tiffany hits the prettiest moonsault ever. It lands a little high on Trish's face, but she wins to retain. I think it's great to see Trish still active on and off the way she's been with the business, and being so selective in her time to come back and deliver has been really good, I think, to help just increase her, her aura, so to speak, her longevity. I think that's been great for her, and the fact she's still able to perform at that high intensity level and put on a good match with Tiffany, I think is a really good testament to her ability. I just want Tiffany to have better opponents and better builds, for her matches as champion. We then see Alundra Blaze / Medusa at ringside alongside Leilani Kai. And then it's time for No Holds Barred. We've got Jade Cargill taking on Naomi, with Bianca Belair caught in the middle being the guest referee. Now, as opposed to the previous matchup, I've really been liking the story and the build to this one. I think everything they've been doing since Elimination Chamber when Jade came back has been very well done at this point. I like them putting Bianca in the middle as somebody who has, friendship history with both of them and is a little bit conflicted here. Also, I appreciated the fact that Naomi's outfit was just bedecked in razor blades. Pity they will not play a role into the match at all. Both ladies start out swinging as the match begins. Naomi brings in some weapons. Jade responds by getting out the toolbox. Naomi wants to use a chain to choke, but Jade powers out, yoinks her down from the corner. Jade takes this definitely operational camera from the definitely operational camera operator and hits Naomi with it. We then get a pump kick with a trash can assist. Naomi drop kicks Jade into the announce desk monitor, and the monitor does a little explode. They're opening the legs of a table. Naomi tries to drive Jade's face into them. Keyword try. Naomi putting Jade through the Slim Jim table. Did Naomi just blow her nose in Jade's hair? She looks to put her away, but Jade hits her with a chair. Then after a lot of prep, she hits the Jaded off the top through a table, and Cargill wins. I liked the physicality of the match. I think it was good to see Jade getting out of that comfort zone of where she's been for so long to get a little more aggressive in this thing. I thought that some of the spots and some of the stunts they did ranged from, oh, that's neat, to like, that kind of turns me off to it. Like the whole ending when one of the roaming cameras gets in the ring to follow the awkward struggle as like Jade is getting Naomi set up, and then you can blatantly see Naomi just give the Iggy like, I'm ready now, and then the camera follows them into the table. Like, that's fine, but it feels like when the cameraman gets into the ring to get a shot of a big move, from an audience perspective, aren't you thinking like, this is clearly the ending now? That seems to be a bit illusion breaking. That really got me irked for some reason. But besides that, I thought it was, a fine match, and it made Jade look good to, put Naomi away the way she did. I wish they did a little more with Bianca as the guest ref and being conflicted. I felt there wasn't really a lot of that in there. But besides that, I thought it was an okay match. Moving on to the Women's Battle Royal, where the winner gets a shot at the Women's Championship at Clash at Paris a little later in August. And one of the big hooks for this one is that Nikki Bella is making her return to the ring for this matchup. Julia gets the final entrance out of all of them. A lot of eyes on her for that one. Definitely a lot of attention to the U.S. champion. Nia Jax gets to eliminating fools right away. Kalani Jordan somehow ends up on the announce table, but she pulls a Kofi Kingston and saves herself from elimination. Julia calmly dumping Ivy Nile out of the ring as Stephanie Vaquer is fighting her. We get a left-handed handshake between Julia and Stephanie, which we all know you can't trust. Chelsea Green and the Secret Hervis are pretty much camping out in one corner for a lot of the match. Maxine Dupree convincing her partner Natalya to do the worm, which she kinda does, but then Jada Parker eliminates her. Michael Cole keeps confusing Candice LeRae for Candice Michelle. Hey, happens all the time. B-Fab with some inspired-looking strikes right on the hard cam. Lash Legend hitting Nia with the big boot. Zelina Vega kicks Julia out of the ring, but then Lash eliminates Vega. Nikki and Lola Vice with some stereo hip swivels. Great reaction face by Lola after Piper Niven decks her. And then Piper's eliminated. Chelsea takes the Devil's Kiss, and then the Rack Attack 2.0. She gone. Then Nia makes fun of Nikki's taunt. Then Lash Legend does a taunt. Like, everyone's doing it. Nia's finally eliminated. We're down to Vaquer and Lash Legend. Devil's Kiss on the apron, and Lash is out, and Stephanie Vaquer wins. And then after the match, Stephanie talks to Stephanie. Vaquer thanks all the ladies who came before her, and she promises to keep working hard and says, you will remember her name forever. I thought that was a really nice speech, and considering that she kind of prefaced it by apologizing for her English, I thought she carried herself very well and was very articulate. That being said, I'm going to give this match 3.5 stars out of 5. Now, I know there are some technical things about this Battle Royal I did not like, but I always like a good Battle Royal that showcases as many people as possible for them to get a moment to shine, get some stuff in. I love these kind of matches where you get a lot of stories throughout and intertwined, and I think this Battle Royal did a really good job of that. I think there were a lot of stories throughout, and I think that there were a lot of notable moments in this thing. So I'm going to, battle royals are tough to grade because they can kind of be on such opposite ends of the spectrum, but I'm going to say this one's a little above average for me. I really like this one. Main event time for the Women's World Championship as Io Sky defends against Rhea Ripley. I like the story for this matchup here. Of course, it was back at WrestleMania when Io won the triple threat. That also involved Rhea Ripley to become the champion. And in the history they've had, Rhea has never been able to beat Io, so I like the conflict they're building with that. And of course, these two have wrestled each other a lot. That is true, but I think that you could put them in a ring at any old time and you're going to have a great match. So let's see how they do. Some nice sizing each other up early on. They're trading taunts. Io hits the acai moonsault early on. Acai means genius. They're fighting on the apron. Rhea throws Io off and she just falls into the announce table. Fighting back in the ring, Rhea works over Io for several minutes before busting out a big tornado DDT. A top rope German is thwarted. Sky with a poison Rana. More fighting near the corner. We get a razor's edge and a powerbomb by Ripley. Still not enough. Io goes for a springboard dropkick, but referee Jessica Carr takes all of it and she's out. Rhea has it won, but there's no referee. They fight their way into the crowd area near some work crates. Io diving off one of them onto this space that just happened, the one padded, carpeted spot in the entire floor. That was lucky of her. They fight their way back to the ring. Io with a sunset flip powerbomb to the floor, over the moonsault, and Rhea barely kicks out. There's a long time getting to the next moment. We get a top rope Spanish fly by Io, but wait, it is now time for the cash-in, baby. Shades of Mania 31. The one-on-one match has now turned into a triple threat now that Naomi runs in and cashes in. She dinks Io with the briefcase. She takes Rhea out of the ring. Naomi hits the split-legged moonsault onto Sky and wins. Naomi ends the show, your new Women's World Champion. I give it 4.5 stars out of 5. This was a very fun matchup. I do give a slight edge to the triple threat at WrestleMania. I do think that, if you're not including the cash in here, I think it was just a better match. There were some things about this one here at Evolution that wasn't really doing it for me. The cash in was very unexpected, very fun way to end it. Things ending inconclusively. We still don't have a definitive end to the Io-Rhea rivalry. Naomi pulling an Edge / Seth Rollins / Chris Jericho, somebody who loses a singles match earlier in the night and then comes back to win the championship. That's a classic misdirection. And I just think it was a really, really strong way to end the show. The cash-in, I think, made it so much more exciting by the end. I think it opens up to a lot of interesting storylines going into SummerSlam for sure. That said, my grade for Evolution 2025 style is a B. I think for a show that had, let's face it, some pretty crap build going into it, not a lot of time and care put into developing the stories and the feuds going into this show, and not to mention everything else that was working against it, all the other wrestling shows that were booked around the same weekend by the same company, mind you. And also I think that there was some Beyonce concerts happening in Atlanta around the same time that, potentially could have affected sales. Despite all that, they delivered a really, really good show. I think historically, when WWE is kind of behind the 8 ball by this, whether it be by their own hand or not, they are able to, produce really strong shows and just kind of exceed your expectations. This show had some good matches. It had some great moments, especially Naomi cashing in at the end. I think it made waiting 7 years for the next Evolution worth the wait. I would not wait another 7 years to have another one. I think you should make this at least, every couple of years thing. Maybe don't make it every year because they gutted so much of the women's roster this past year in cuts and everything. Might need some more time to build it up. But hey, let's make Evolution a little more frequent than it's been, because I think both shows were great. Last night's or Sundays, the time, whatever. You know what I mean. It was a really good show. And, I like the fact that they didn't rely so much on legends in the ring as opposed to last Evolution, because this is the evolution of the division and everything. And so showing more of the present and the future, I thought that was also very well done. But yeah, they definitely shouldn't wait another 7 years for another Evolution. But what did you think about Evolution, folks? What were some of your biggest takeaways? I want to hear about it in the comment section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to Wrestling with Regret. Hit that bell icon for all the notifications. Hope you enjoyed this review of Evolution, folks. Stick around because this week I am going back to the Great American Bash. Oh, not the NXT version, mind you. No. I'm talking about the Great American Bash 2007 for my classic review. It's dropping on Wednesday, but until then, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.